The morning Lauren left was quiet, eerily quiet, the kind that makes you feel like the world is holding its breath. The coffee pot was still half full, steam no longer rising. The sun bled through the blinds, cutting across the kitchen floor in perfect golden bars. Michael rubbed his eyes, wondering why she wasn't humming like she always did when she got up first. He called her name once, then twice. No answer. The bedroom door stood open. The closet, her side, was empty. All her clothes, her jewelry box, the framed photo from their wedding night, gone. On the nightstand, her wedding ring sat atop a folded piece of paper. His heart sank. The note was short. "It's for the best. Don't look for me." For a long moment he couldn't breathe. He just stared at the words, trying to make sense of the impossible. They hadn't fought. They'd eaten dinner together just last night, Chinese takeout, a movie on TV, her head resting on his shoulder. Nothing had seemed wrong. Michael dropped into the kitchen chair, the paper shaking in his hand. "For the best," he whispered. "What the hell does that even mean?" He scanned the house in disbelief. Her scent lingered in the hallway, a faint trace of lavender shampoo. The calendar still showed their anniversary circled in red just a week ago. Her favorite mug was in the sink. Everything screamed normal, except she wasn't there. He called her phone, straight to voicemail. He tried again, and again. The same recorded voice. "Hi, this is Lauren. Leave a message." By the third try, his voice cracked. "Lauren, please, call me back. Whatever this is, we can fix it. Just, please come home." The day crawled by in fragments. He went to work pretending to function, but his mind replayed every detail of the past week. Had he missed something? A look in her eyes? A hesitation? A secret she never told him? By evening, fear gave way to anger. He called her best friend, Rachel. "Rachel, have you heard from her? She's gone. Just gone." There was a pause on the other end. "Gone? What do you mean, gone?" "She left. Took everything. Filed for divorce." Rachel's breath caught. "She didn't tell me anything, Michael. She's been quiet lately, but I thought she was just stressed." "Stressed about what?" "I don't know. Work, maybe. She said something about needing to make things right. That's all." Michael hung up, feeling hollow. That night he sat on the couch, staring at the note again. "It's for the best." The words mocked him under the dim lamplight. He thought about calling the police, but what would he even say? My wife disappeared, but she left a note? By midnight, he opened a bottle of whiskey and poured 2 glasses out of habit, one for him, one for her. He left hers untouched. The next morning, an envelope arrived in the mail. Legal documents, divorce papers, already filed, already signed by Lauren. His name printed coldly beside hers, as if their 7 years together had been reduced to lines of ink. He crumpled the letter, his jaw tightening. It didn't make sense. None of it did. Friends tried to comfort him, saying maybe she met someone new, maybe she got tired, maybe she just wanted more. But Michael knew her better than that. Or at least he thought he did. As the days turned into weeks, the house grew quieter, emptier. He'd wake up expecting to hear her laughter in the kitchen, only to face the echo of his own breathing. And yet deep down, something told him this wasn't over. Lauren's goodbye wasn't closure. It was the beginning of a mystery he didn't yet understand. 5 years later, he'd finally discover why she really left. The days that followed felt like a fever Michael couldn't wake from. Every morning, he expected Lauren to walk through the door, smiling, saying it was all a misunderstanding. But weeks passed, and the silence stayed. The note on the counter yellowed with time, like a wound that refused to close. He finally went to her office, desperate for answers. The receptionist looked up politely. "I'm sorry, sir, but Lauren Haynes no longer works here." "When did she leave?" Michael asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "About a month ago. No forwarding address." He stared at the woman blankly. "A month ago? That's before she left me." She shrugged helplessly. "All I know is she resigned suddenly. No explanation." Outside, the city buzzed as if mocking his confusion. Lauren had erased herself cleanly, methodically, like someone who'd planned it for months. At home, the mail became his only connection to her. He watched for her handwriting, for anything that might say, "I'm sorry," or "I'll explain." But the envelope that finally arrived wasn't from her. It was from a law firm. He tore it open. Inside, cold legal phrasing stared back at him. Notice of dissolution of marriage, signed by her attorney, dated 2 days after she'd left. Michael's heart pounded. She filed before she even left? He called the number on the letter. A calm female voice answered. "Goodman Reyes Law, Family Division." "This is Michael Haynes," he said, voice trembling. "My wife, Lauren, filed for divorce. I just received the papers. I don't understand what's happening." "I'm sorry, Mr. Haynes," she replied. "Mrs. Haynes requested that all communication go through her counsel. She's chosen to waive further contact." "Waive contact," he repeated, disbelief twisting into anger. "She can't just vanish like that." The line stayed silent for a moment. Then the woman said softly, "She can, sir. Legally, she already has." That night, Michael sat in the dark, staring at the glowing outline of the documents. Everything about Lauren's exit felt too clean, too organized to be emotional. She'd not only left him, she'd erased him. He met with his old college friend, Daniel Ruiz, now a lawyer. Daniel flipped through the paperwork, frowning. "She covered every angle," he said finally. "No joint assets left to dispute. She withdrew her name from the mortgage, transferred car ownership, even separated her accounts 6 months ago. She planned this, Mike." Michael shook his head, running a hand through his hair. "But why? There's no affair, no fight, nothing. She just disappeared." Daniel sighed. "Sometimes people just fall out of love." Michael's voice broke. "No, not like this. Not her." Daniel hesitated. "You could contest it, but without evidence of wrongdoing, it'll only drag you through hell. My advice? Sign and move on. Move on." The words echoed cruelly. How do you move on from a ghost? The next weeks were filled with half-hearted attempts at normalcy. Work, sleep, repeat. But at night, his dreams replayed her leaving, her hands packing, her silence heavy. He searched social media, old friends, mutual contacts. Nothing. Lauren had vanished digitally, too. No photos, no mentions, as if she'd never existed. One evening he found her wedding ring still on the counter, glinting under the weak kitchen light. He picked it up, pressing it into his palm until it hurt. "Why, Lauren?" he whispered. "What did I do?" But no answer came, only the hum of the refrigerator and the weight of emptiness filling the room. When the divorce was finalized months later, a small envelope arrived from her lawyer's office. Inside was a single slip of paper. "Please respect my decision. Don't look for me." Michael read it once, twice, then folded it carefully and placed it beside her ring. He didn't know it yet, but somewhere far away, Lauren's reasons for vanishing were buried deep, waiting for the moment they'd come crashing back into his life. 5 years crawled by, slow and unforgiving. The seasons changed, but for Michael, time seemed to have stopped the morning Lauren walked out. Her name was erased from the mailbox, her scent long gone from their home, yet every corner still whispered her absence. He tried rebuilding. He changed jobs, sold the house, moved to a smaller apartment across town. He told himself it was a fresh start, but deep down he knew it was an escape. From ghosts, from questions, from the ache of not knowing why. Sometimes he'd catch himself reaching for his phone late at night, his thumb hovering over her old number, even though it hadn't worked in years. Other times, he'd wake from dreams where she stood in their kitchen, smiling like she used to, saying, "It's for the best." Those 4 words had become his tormentor. He had learned to live functionally, if not fully. Work, gym, sleep, repeat. Friends drifted away after too many declined invites. His parents stopped asking about her. They didn't want to reopen wounds. Everyone moved on. Except him. Until one quiet Thursday evening. He was sitting on his couch, dinner untouched, the TV flickering lazily in the background. The news anchor's voice was just background noise, until he heard her name. A charitable donation of $5 million was made earlier today by philanthropist Lauren Haynes, said Olivia Parker, the smiling anchor. The anonymous benefactor behind several education programs has declined interviews, citing privacy. The remote slipped from his hand. He froze. The screen showed a blurred image of a woman handing over a check, tall, slender, hair pulled back in a neat bun. For a heartbeat, he thought it was her. He knew that posture, that tilt of the head, even the faint curve of her smile. It was her. His chest tightened. "Lauren," he whispered, barely audible. The report lasted barely 30 seconds, but it shattered 5 years of silence. He searched online immediately. News articles, donation records, anything that might confirm it. And there it was. Lauren Haynes, $5 million charitable contribution, Austin, Texas. Austin, the same state she'd filed the divorce from. Michael's pulse raced. His mind battled between fury and disbelief. She'd left him penniless, broken, and alone, only to reappear 5 years later with millions to give away? He stared at the glow of his laptop screen, the cursor blinking like an accusation. The betrayal felt fresh again, sharper than ever. He opened a browser tab, typed her name, then added lottery winner on a whim. The result hit him like a blow. Local woman wins $50 million jackpot. Lauren Haynes of Austin claims prize. Dated 2 weeks before she disappeared. His breath caught. No, that can't be right. He clicked through the article. The photo was unmistakable. Lauren, clutching the massive check, smiling nervously for the camera. The caption beneath read, "Winner wishes to remain private about future plans." Michael felt the room spin. The note, the divorce, the silence. All of it suddenly looked different in the shadow of $50 million. She hadn't left him for someone else. She'd left him for something else. He leaned back, hands trembling, eyes burning with a cocktail of anger and confusion. 5 years, he muttered. And this is what you were hiding. Somewhere in his chest, a long-buried fire reignited. He wasn't done with Lauren, not anymore. Michael couldn't sleep that night. The glow of his laptop burned into his eyes as he reread the article again and again, the date mocking him. 2 weeks before she left. 2 weeks. That was all it took for Lauren to transform from his loving wife into a millionaire stranger who'd vanished without a trace. He whispered into the dark, "You won $50 million. And you didn't tell me?" Every memory from their last days together replayed in his head, warped now by what he knew. The late-night phone calls she took in the kitchen. The sudden stress she claimed was about work. The way she'd hugged him tighter than usual the night before she disappeared. He'd thought it was love. Maybe it had been goodbye. By morning, he was consumed by a single question. Why hide it? He dug deeper online, searching archives, local news, even cached versions of the state lottery website. The photos of her smiling with the giant check looked wrong, her eyes tense, her smile forced. Behind her stood two men in suits, hands clasped, their faces blurred in the background. Michael leaned closer to the screen. Something about them looked off. Government types? Lawyers? Bodyguards? He couldn't tell. He printed the article, highlighted the date, and shoved it into a folder labeled Lauren. A name that once meant warmth now looked clinical, like evidence in a case file. Later that day, he met Daniel at a downtown cafe. "I found something," Michael said, sliding the printouts across the table. "She won the damn lottery, Dan, $50 million, 2 weeks before she left me." Daniel's brow furrowed. "You're sure it's her?" "Positive. Same name, same face. Look at the date. She disappeared right after this." Daniel exhaled slowly, rubbing his temple. "That's unbelievable. But Mike, if she really won that kind of money, legally she didn't owe you a share. You were still married, but I'm not talking about money," Michael snapped. "I'm talking about why. Why would she vanish? Why file for divorce instead of celebrating? We could have had everything." Daniel hesitated. "Maybe she didn't trust you with it." The words hit harder than he expected. "Don't do that," Michael said quietly. "Don't make it sound like I drove her away." "Then what are you saying?" Daniel asked. "I'm saying something doesn't fit. She didn't run because she was greedy. She ran because she was scared." Daniel looked skeptical. "Scared of what? Having $50 million? Michael pushed the laptop across the table, showing him the image again. "Look at her body language. That's not someone celebrating. That's someone pretending. And those men behind her, no one mentioned them in the article." Daniel sighed. "You've spent 5 years living with a ghost, Mike. Don't start chasing shadows now." But Michael wasn't listening anymore. The moment he'd seen her face on that screen, something inside him reignited, an instinct stronger than reason. He had to know the truth. That night, he sat alone with the printouts spread across his table. Headlights from the street cut through the blinds, sliding across the images like interrogation lamps. He opened a blank notebook and began writing. Timeline. Lauren Haynes. April 8th. Lottery won. April 20th. She leaves me. April 22nd. Divorce filed. 5 years of silence. His pen hovered. Motive. Unknown. Michael exhaled shakily. "You didn't leave for money, did you, Lauren? You left for something else." The thought burrowed deep, refusing to let him rest. He spent the following days reaching out to anyone connected to the lottery. Clerks, reporters, even old employees from the convenience store where she'd bought the ticket. Most ignored him. One clerk finally responded, saying, "Yeah, I remember her. Nice lady. But she didn't come alone. 2 men were with her. Said they were from the state's finance office." Michael's pulse spiked. Finance office? That didn't sound right. He searched public records for any state financial agents listed that week. Nothing matched. Whoever those men were, they weren't from the Lottery Commission. Late that night, he stared at the grainy screenshot again. Lauren's tense smile, the men behind her, the weight of fear hidden under celebration. He didn't know who they were, but he knew one thing now. Lauren hadn't just walked away from love or life. She was running from something, or someone. Michael leaned back, heart pounding. "You didn't leave me for $50 million, he murmured. "You left because you had to." He looked at the folder labeled Lauren, now thicker with notes and clippings. Tomorrow, he'd start finding her for real. Michael woke before dawn, the decision already made. For 5 years, he'd been haunted by questions. Now, armed with the truth about the lottery, he couldn't rest until he found her. The woman who'd once promised forever had vanished with $50 million and left behind only silence. But her fear, that haunted look in the photo, told him there was more beneath the surface. He started by calling every contact he still had from their old life. Friends, co-workers, anyone who might have heard from her. Most sounded awkward, uncomfortable, even guilty. "We haven't spoken to Lauren in years," they'd say, their voices soft, careful. Some avoided his calls altogether. By evening, Michael realized he needed help. That's when he found Ryan Holt, a private investigator who specialized in missing persons and identity changes. They met in a dim office above a pawn shop, the air thick with stale coffee and cigarette smoke. Ryan was in his 50s, lean, sharp-eyed, with a voice that rasped from too many late nights. "You're looking for an ex-wife," he said, jotting notes as Michael talked. "Disappeared 5 years ago after winning a jackpot. That's one hell of a mystery." "I don't want her money," Michael said firmly. "I just want to know why she left, what she's hiding." Ryan studied him for a moment. "You sure you're ready for what you might find?" Michael nodded, though his gut twisted. "I've been ready for 5 years." Within days, Ryan began digging. He traced property records, banking activity, vehicle registrations, anything that could hint at where Lauren had gone. Most leads were dead ends. Her digital footprint vanished completely after the divorce. But then Ryan found something, a small property purchased under an alias, L. Bennett, in a quiet Arizona suburb. She used a trust to buy it, Ryan explained during their next meeting. Cash purchase. No loans, no trail. Classic move for someone who doesn't want to be found. Michael stared at the photo Ryan slid across the desk. A pale stucco house surrounded by desert. Isolated, ordinary, but expensive. "You're sure it's her?" "Neighbors say a woman matching her description lives there. Keeps to herself. Comes and goes at odd hours. No visitors, no family." Michael leaned back, heart pounding. "Then that's her." Ryan nodded. "There's one more thing. The locals say she isn't alone." Michael frowned. "What do you mean?" "A man's been seen visiting the property every few weeks. Not a boyfriend, too formal. Wears a suit, government plates on his car." Government plates. The image of the two men behind her in that lottery photo flashed in Michael's mind. "Who is he?" Ryan shook his head. "Can't say yet. I'll need a few more days to run the plates." The following week, Michael drove out to Arizona himself. He parked across from the beige house just as dusk fell, watching from his car. The desert air was dry and quiet, the kind of silence that carried secrets. The front lights flicked on. A silhouette moved past the window, slender, deliberate, unmistakable. Lauren. He froze, breath atching in his throat. 5 years of questions, 5 years of hurt, and there she was, alive, real, only a few yards away. He wanted to run to her, to demand answers, but something held him back. Her movements were tense, cautious. She checked the window before closing the blinds as though expecting danger. A few minutes later, a dark sedan pulled into the driveway. A man in a suit stepped out, his posture crisp, professional. He rang the bell once. The door opened. Lauren let him in. Michael gripped the steering wheel, pulse hammering. The man didn't look like a lover. He looked like someone official. He reached for his phone, whispering, "Ryan, it's me. I found her, and she's not alone." Ryan's voice crackled through the line. "Don't approach her yet. Watch. Listen. I'll be there by morning." Michael nodded, never taking his eyes off the house. Through the drawn curtains, he saw shadows moving. Lauren's figure, than the man's. It wasn't an argument, but whatever they discussed made her gesture sharply, almost fearfully. Something was wrong. As the lights dimmed and the desert swallowed the night, Michael knew one thing for certain. Lauren wasn't living free. She was living in hiding. And whoever that man was, he was part of the reason why. By the time Ryan arrived in Arizona the next morning, Michael hadn't slept. He'd spent the night in his car, parked across the street from Lauren's house, watching as the mysterious man stayed inside for nearly 2 hours before leaving just before dawn. The sedan's license plate gleamed briefly under the streetlight, black text, government issued. When Ryan opened the passenger door, Michael handed him the photo he'd taken with his phone. "That's him," he said, his voice raw. "That's the guy who was with her last night." Ryan squinted at the screen. "Professional type. Suit, short haircut, no nonsense. Looks like government security detail. Maybe FBI, maybe witness protection." "Witness protection?" Michael repeated. "Why would Lauren need that?" Ryan didn't answer right away. "Depends on what she saw, or who she crossed." Michael's stomach tightened. For the first time, anger gave way to fear. He'd imagined betrayal, greed, even manipulation, but not danger. Ryan spent the next few hours making calls and running searches through his private channels. When he returned, his expression was grim. "The car's registered to a federal agency, not FBI, though. It's part of a division used for relocation programs, basically people who testify in major cases. Your wife's new friend works for them." Michael blinked, disbelief clouding his thoughts. "So, she's a witness? Or under protection?" "Could be either," Ryan said. "If she's under protection, it means her life's in danger. If she's a witness, she might have helped put someone dangerous behind bars." Michael looked out the window toward the beige house. The blinds were still drawn. "That explains why she disappeared so completely," he murmured. "Why she changed her name. But what does that have to do with the lottery?" Ryan leaned forward. "Maybe she didn't win by luck. Maybe she used that money to buy her freedom." The words hit hard. Freedom. From what? From who? That afternoon, they watched again from the car. Hours passed. Then, just after sunset, Lauren stepped outside. Hood pulled low, clutching a small envelope. She glanced around nervously before dropping it into her mailbox. Michael gripped the door handle. "I have to talk to her." Ryan's hand shot out, stopping him. "You can't. If she's under federal protection, approaching her could blow her cover. You could get her, or yourself, hurt." "I've waited 5 years for answers, Ryan." Michael's voice cracked with desperation. "I can't just drive away again." Ryan studied him carefully. "Then listen. Let me pull the surveillance footage from the last few months. If that man's been visiting regularly, he reports to someone. We follow the trail, not the woman." Reluctantly, Michael nodded, sinking back into the seat. His heart ached as he watched Lauren disappear inside again. Later that night, in a cheap motel room, Ryan spread out printouts from his contacts. "His name's Agent Blake Turner. Works in federal relocation. He's clean, but the cases he's attached to, not so much." Michael scanned the files. Fraud, corruption, and one headline that made his blood run cold. "Global Corp Financial Scandal. Whistleblower vanishes before trial." Ryan tapped the paper. "Lauren worked for this company, didn't she?" Michael nodded slowly. "She was an accountant. She used to say her job was stressful. I thought she meant office politics, not federal crimes." Ryan's eyes hardened. "Then maybe she wasn't hiding from you, Mike. Maybe she was hiding you." Michael looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" "If she exposed her company for laundering money and your name was on any of those accounts, you'd be a target too. The only way to protect you was to disappear." The room fell silent. Michael stared at the case file, the puzzle pieces finally beginning to align in horrifying clarity. Lauren hadn't abandoned him out of greed. She'd sacrificed everything to keep him safe. He closed his eyes, whispering, "Lauren, what did you get yourself into?" Ryan began packing up the files. "Whatever it was, we're going to find out. There's more to this story than a lottery win." Michael nodded faintly, resolve replacing confusion. He finally knew what he was chasing. Not just a lost wife, but the truth she'd buried to protect him. The night air hung heavy in the motel room as Ryan spread the files across the table. Newspaper clippings, redacted documents, and a few blurred photos formed a mosaic of secrets Lauren had been part of. Michael sat silently, staring at the words Global Corp financial scandal printed across one headline like a curse. "Start from the top," he muttered. "Tell me what you found." Ryan tapped one folder. 5 years ago, Global Corp was accused of laundering over $200 million through offshore accounts. The Payne's accounting team, Lauren's department, handled the transactions. Someone leaked internal financial data to the feds, but before the trial began, the whistleblower disappeared. Case went cold. Michael swallowed. "You're saying Lauren was the whistleblower?" Ryan nodded slowly. "All signs point that way. The same year she vanished, the corporation's legal team fell apart. The CEO was never convicted. They claimed their witness backed out at the last minute." Michael's pulse pounded in his ears. "She didn't back out. She ran." "Exactly," Ryan said. "She ran to survive." Michael leaned back, exhaling shakily. The truth was both relief and torment. The woman he'd cursed for years had been running from danger, not from him. But what about the lottery money? That still doesn't fit. Ryan hesitated before answering. "That's the strangest part. The winning ticket was purchased near Global Corp's headquarters, just 2 days after a massive data breach in their system. What if the lottery wasn't random? What if the win was a way to hide money?" Michael frowned. "You think the lottery was fake?" "Not fake," Ryan said carefully, "but possibly engineered. Someone with access to the system could manipulate the ticket numbers if they had the right tech. Lauren was an accountant with high-level clearance. Maybe she discovered the laundering scheme and used it to fund her escape." Michael stared at the evidence, torn between awe and disbelief. "She stole from criminals to protect herself." "Or to expose them," Ryan added. "Maybe both." A long silence settled. The motel's flickering light buzzed softly as Michael tried to process it all. 5 years of hate dissolved into something heavier. Grief. He whispered, "She went through all of this, and I thought she just stopped loving me." Ryan's voice softened. "You couldn't have known. She probably made sure of that." Michael rubbed his temples, exhaustion carving deep lines into his face. "If she's been under protection this whole time, she must have testified. Why hasn't the case resurfaced?" Ryan opened another file. "Because it was sealed. Someone powerful buried it. And here's the kicker. Blake Turner, the agent you saw, was the lead handler assigned to her relocation. He's the one who requested the case to be sealed permanently." Michael straightened. "You think she's still in danger?" Ryan's tone hardened. "I think the people she exposed aren't done yet. And if Turner's involved beyond his role, then Lauren might not be as protected as we think." The words hit like a bullet. Michael's instincts screamed to find her, warn her, hold her. But Ryan's warning echoed louder. If she's under protection, contact could destroy everything. Still, a thought gnawed at him. "She left me a clue, Ryan. The photo, the lottery ticket. She knew I'd find something." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "You think she wanted you to follow her?" Michael's gaze darkened. "Maybe not follow, but understand." He stood, pacing the small room. If this man, Turner, sealed the case, then he knows where she is. I need to talk to him. Ryan sighed. You're walking into a minefield. I've already lived in one for 5 years, Michael replied. I just didn't realize it. Ryan finally nodded. All right. But we do this my way. Carefully. If Turner's legit, we'll confirm it. If he's not, then we'll expose him, just like she exposed Global Corp. Michael looked out the window at the endless stretch of highway disappearing into the dark. She started something big, he murmured, and it's not over yet. Ryan folded the files and slid them into a bag. Tomorrow morning we find Turner. I'll make a few calls. Someone in D.C. owes me a favor. As Ryan turned off the lights, Michael sat on the edge of the bed, staring into the shadows. His mind replayed every moment with Lauren. The laughter, the nights they planned their future, the morning she vanished. For the first time, he understood. She hadn't ghosted him. She had carried the burden of a secret so heavy it demanded silence. He clenched his fists. I'm coming, Lauren, he whispered. Whatever you were protecting, I'll finish it. Outside, a car rolled past the motel slowly, its headlights lingering on their room window before vanishing into the night. Ryan noticed, his instincts alert. We're not the only ones looking into this, he muttered. Michael's eyes flickered toward him. Then we better move fast. By dawn, Ryan and Michael were already on the road to Phoenix, following a lead Ryan's contact had given overnight. A small storage unit, registered under a fake name, Claire Benson. The birth date matched Lauren's. Ryan parked outside the rusted facility, glancing toward Michael. If this is hers, she wanted it hidden. Be careful what you hope to find. Michael's pulse raced as they approached the unit. The air smelled of dust and oil, the silence broken only by the hum of distant traffic. Ryan picked the lock with surgical precision. The metal door groaned open, revealing darkness and the faint scent of paper and old plastic. A single cardboard box sat in the corner, labeled with black marker. Do not destroy. Michael's hands trembled as he lifted the lid. Inside were receipts, an old passport, a sealed envelope, and a small voice recorder. Its red button glimmered faintly beneath layers of dust. Ryan exhaled. Looks like your wife left you something. Michael swallowed hard. Or someone she trusted to find it. He pressed play. For a moment, there was only static. Then Lauren's voice, soft but steady, filled the room. If you're hearing this, I'm either gone or I've run out of time. Michael froze. The voice he hadn't heard in 5 years was suddenly alive again, threading through the air with sorrow and urgency. Michael, I couldn't tell you everything. The night I left, I wanted to wake you to explain, but they were already watching. I had to choose between you and survival. You'd never have let me go if you knew the truth. Her tone cracked slightly before steadying again. Global Corp wasn't just laundering money. They were funding private security contracts overseas, using fake charities and investment fronts. I found the numbers, traced the accounts, and sent them to federal investigators. That's when the threat started. Michael's eyes stung. He could almost see her, sitting somewhere in fear, whispering into that recorder, knowing it might be her last chance to speak to him. The lottery ticket wasn't luck. It was leverage. They funneled millions through a system I helped expose. I claimed the ticket under a false identity to recover what they stole. It was dangerous, but it bought me protection. And it bought you time. Ryan's eyebrows shot up. She hacked a national lottery system to hide stolen funds, he whispered. That's genius. Michael barely heard him. His chest felt tight as Lauren's message continued. If Agent Turner ever contacts you, Don't trust him. He's not protecting me. He's controlling me. He's using the money to keep me silent. I thought I could outsmart him, but he's always one step ahead. There's a copy of the files I gave the feds hidden in this box. Use them if anything happens to me. Michael dug through the box, finding a small USB drive taped under the lid. His heart thudded. Lauren's voice softened again. I never wanted to disappear from your life, but if I hadn't, you would have been next. Please believe me. I did this for us. A shaky breath. If you're listening, it means the truth is still buried. Don't let them rewrite it. Then silence. Michael sat motionless, the weight of every word crushing him. His wife hadn't betrayed him. She had sacrificed everything to keep him alive. Ryan finally spoke. That tape could expose Turner. Maybe even reopen the case. Michael clenched his jaw. Then that's exactly what we'll do. Ryan nodded, slipping the USB into his jacket. I'll have it decrypted tonight. If she left evidence, we'll trace the transactions. As they turned to leave, Michael looked back at the dark storage unit. She was fighting this alone, he whispered. 5 years, and not once did she stop protecting me. Ryan placed a hand on his shoulder. Then let's make sure her fight wasn't for nothing. They closed the door and stepped into the harsh morning sun. Michael felt the tape's words echoing in his chest, Lauren's final plea, haunting and brave. Somewhere out there, Agent Turner was still pulling the strings. And now, Michael finally had the proof to cut them. The motel room was dimly lit, the only sound the low hum of Ryan's laptop as he decrypted the files from Lauren's USB. Michael sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the recorder lying beside him, her voice still echoing in his head. Every word of that message had cracked something open inside him. Love, guilt, rage, all tangled into a single burning purpose. Ryan finally looked up from the screen, eyes grave. She wasn't exaggerating, Mike. These files, they're massive. Wire transfers, fake accounts, emails between Global Corp executives and foreign shell companies. Enough evidence to bury a dozen people. Michael leaned forward. Then why didn't she go public? She tried, Ryan said quietly. According to these logs, she sent the data to the Department of Justice. Hours later, her access was revoked. Someone inside must have warned Turner. He was assigned to relocate her before she could talk to anyone else. Michael's fists clenched. So he silenced her. Or used her, Ryan corrected. He probably told her she was in danger, moved her off the grid, then took control of the evidence. It's how corruption stays clean. Bury the witness under the label of protection. Michael's jaw tightened. She was living like a prisoner. Ryan nodded grimly. And the money she won? He's been managing it. Transfers show recurring withdrawals linked to an untraceable offshore account, probably his. Michael felt the room tilt. So, Turner stole from her too, from both of you, Ryan said. He used her to hide the stolen funds. Her silence was his insurance policy. Michael stood, pacing the small space. 5 years, Ryan. She lived 5 years in fear because that man decided her truth was too dangerous. Ryan closed the laptop. You need to understand what comes next. If we expose this, you're not just reopening an old case. You're going against people who buried it once already. They'll come after us. Michael turned, his face pale but resolute. Then let them. Ryan studied him for a moment. You're starting to sound like her. Michael managed a faint, pained smile. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. They left the motel under the cover of night, heading for Phoenix again. Ryan had arranged a meeting with a journalist, someone he trusted, a former investigative reporter named Nora Ellis. She had once covered the Global Corp scandal before the story mysteriously disappeared from the media. The diner where they met was nearly empty. Nora was sharp-eyed, her hair tied back, voice low and steady. "Ryan said you have something that can break the Global Corp case." Michael handed her the USB. "This belonged to my wife. She risked everything to get it out." Nora plugged it into her laptop, scanning the documents. Her breath hitched. This is the missing dataset. The whistleblower's files." "She was the whistleblower," Michael said quietly. "Lauren Bennett." Nora's expression softened. "I remember her name. They said she fled the country. Guess that wasn't true." Michael's eyes darkened. "No, she was taken." Nora closed her laptop gently. "If I publish this, the story won't just expose Global Corp. It'll drag government agents, federal departments, and half a dozen shell companies into the light. Are you ready for that?" Michael hesitated, then nodded. "It's what she wanted." Ryan leaned in. "Make sure it's airtight. Once it's out, Turner will know we've seen everything." Nora met his gaze. "Then we better be faster than him." They left the diner, tension thick in the air. As Michael climbed into the car, Ryan's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered, and a voice, cold and measured, spoke through static. "Mr. Bennett, you've been very busy." Michael's blood ran cold. "Turner, you have something that belongs to me," the voice said. "Let's not make this uglier than it needs to be." Then the line went dead. Michael's eyes met Ryan's. "He knows." Ryan started the engine. Then the cost of silence just turned into war. The headline broke the internet before sunrise. "Whistleblower files expose Global Corp conspiracy. Federal agent under investigation." Nora's story went live at 5 a.m., and within hours, every news outlet had picked it up. Ryan and Michael sat in the same motel where it had all begun, the television flashing images of agents, raids, and leaked documents that confirmed everything Lauren had said. For a long moment, neither man spoke. "She did it," Michael whispered. "Even after all these years, she finally won." Ryan exhaled slowly. "No, Mike, you did it. You carried it across the finish line." But Michael shook his head. "I just finished what she started." The air was heavy with exhaustion and bittersweet victory. The world finally knew the truth. How Global Corp had used fake lottery systems and federal cover-ups to move millions in laundered money, and how an accountant named Lauren Bennett had risked her life to expose it. The investigation into Agent Blake Turner was already underway. Anonymous sources claimed he'd fled D.C. hours before the story broke. Still, victory felt hollow. Michael stared out the window, lost in thought. "Do you think she's safe now?" Ryan hesitated. "If Turner's running, she's probably free. But no one disappeared. Bars from witness protection without a trace. Not unless they're helped." Michael frowned. Helped by who? Ryan didn't answer. 2 days passed in tense silence. Michael barely slept, his mind replaying the voice on the tape, every memory of Lauren etched behind his eyelids. The world had finally learned her name, but he still hadn't found her. Then, on the third morning, an envelope slid under the motel door. No knock, no footsteps, just the soft scrape of paper against linoleum. Ryan picked it up carefully, scanning the outside. No address, no sender, only 2 words written in neat handwriting. 5 years later. Michael's heart stopped. It was Lauren's handwriting. Inside was a folded letter and a small photo. Lauren standing on a rocky beach somewhere far away, her hair tied back, the ocean behind her. She looked older, but calm, free. Michael's fingers shook as he unfolded the letter. "Michael, If you're reading this, it means the truth is finally out. I never stopped watching, never stopped hoping you'd find me, but I couldn't risk it until the world knew what really happened. Turner's gone. They're cleaning up the mess now, and for the first time in years, I can breathe without looking over my shoulder. I'm sorry for every night you wondered where I was, for every unanswered question that became a wound. But I had to disappear to keep you alive. I needed you to hate me so you'd stop searching before they found you. You were my reason for running and my reason for surviving. I can't come back. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But you'll always know the truth now, and that's what matters. Tears blurred the ink as Michael reached the final line. I loved you through every silence. Lauren. He sat there for a long time, the weight of 5 years pressing down and lifting all at once. Ryan placed a hand on his shoulder. She's alive, Mike. That's what she wanted you to know. Michael nodded slowly, staring at the photograph again. She gave everything to expose them, even us. Ryan looked out the window at the horizon. Sun. Sometimes justice takes everything before it gives anything back. Michael folded the letter carefully, tucking it into his jacket pocket. 5 years ago, she vanished to protect me. Now she's free because I finally believed her. He stood, eyes fixed on the horizon. Wherever she is, she deserves peace. Ryan smiled faintly. And what about you? Michael took a long breath. I'll find mine in her truth. Outside, the first light of morning broke over the desert. For the first time in 5 years, Michael felt the world shift from shadow to color. Lauren was gone, but her voice, her courage, remained. Some love stories didn't end in reunion. Some ended in redemption. 6 months later, the world had moved on. The headlines faded, the investigations slowed, and Global Corp's empire finally crumbled under the weight of Lauren's evidence. Ryan went back to private work, occasionally checking in, while Michael tried to rebuild a life that no longer felt like his own. Every morning, he still listened to the recording, the last trace of Lauren's voice. It had become his ritual, his way of keeping her close. But no matter how many times he replayed it, the final words haunted him differently now. If you're hearing this, I'm either gone or I've run out of time. Then, one cold morning, a news alert appeared on his phone. Unidentified woman found off the coast of Baja, California. The photo was blurry, but the bracelet on her wrist was unmistakable. Silver, engraved with the word forever, the same one he'd given Lauren on their anniversary. Michael didn't cry. He just stood there, numb, the world spinning quietly around him. Later, at the shoreline where her body was laid to rest, he scattered white roses into the tide. The ocean swallowed them gently, carrying them far beyond reach. Ryan joined him in silence. She saved a lot of people, Mike, he said quietly. The truth's finally free. Michael nodded faintly. Yeah, but she paid for it with everything. As the waves pulled the last rose under, Michael whispered, You kept your promise, Lauren. You protected me. Even from the truth. The wind shifted, carrying the faint sound of the tide, like a voice fading into peace. Lauren Bennett was gone. But her truth, her courage, was no longer buried. It lived on in the silence she'd left behind. The end.